Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mark in Time. I got an interesting story for you tonight. A while back, I bought a lot shipment from a gentleman whose father was a watchmaker. And he was selling all these watches. They were in a box. They were all vintage. The price was right. I picked them up and I started putting them together. There was only about 2 or 3 watches that were actually fully assembled, and this was one of them. And this is a Cernadat 21 jewel dive watch. Very lovely watch, actually. It really looks cool. But as I was taking it apart to do a service on it and see what was wrong, I noticed something very interesting. The click, which is this piece right here, was dislodged. Now this click is a little different than a lot of other ones I see. Most clicks are screwed onto the bridge, and this one here is friction fitted. Now what the click does is the click holds the ratchet wheel in place. So when you're winding up your watch, the zip, zip, zip sound is basically the click holding the ratchet wheel in place. So when you go to let go of the crown, which is this piece here, the spring doesn't just wind back. So, you're winding up a watch and then it holds the spring at the position where you finish winding, and so you can wind up your spring, which is in here, which is your spring barrel. Now this is completely assembled because I've repaired it, cleaned it, and put it all back together. And I'm telling you, I talk to most watchmakers, it's not easy putting these back together. But in between here is, at the end of the spring, is the barrel arbor. So this was off. So when I took the watch apart, I noticed that this piece here was just lying there separate. And I thought that was kind of weird. And then as I kept taking the watch apart, I got to the barrel. And one of the last things I do is I take the barrel apart. And to my surprise, the barrel arbor, which holds onto the spring, it's kind of the piece that hooks onto the spring. So when you're winding it up, it's the one that tightens the spring. It will pull the whole spring all tight together. So when you let go of the crown, it can start ticking away because this starts to release, etc., etc., etc. So the barrel arbor was disconnected from the spring. So what I was expecting to find was the spring broken, right? The little hook, there's in the spring, there's just a little square, and then there's an armature on the barrel arbor that clicks into it. And I was expecting to find that broken, but to my surprise, the spring was in perfect condition. Now this is a bit of a mystery. How is it that the barrel arbor is separate from the spring and the spring is still in one piece? Well, I called up a friend of mine and explained to him what I found, and I'm like, this is something new. I haven't seen this before. This is really strange. And throwing back a couple of ideas, I really truly believe he got the idea right. He explained to me, he said, Mark, since it's a friction-fitted click, he said, what I bet happened was the person wound up the spring and then dropped the watch. Maybe trying to put on the band. I mean, it's a bit of a weird band. Maybe he's trying to put the band on. It slipped out of his hand and he dropped the watch. The watch hit the ground, knocked the click out of place. The click then disengaged from the ratchet wheel, and the ratchet wheel, which is connected to the arbor, of course, now the spring can completely unwind. And these springs, although small, are pretty powerful. So when it completely unwound, right when it got to the end, it was a sudden stop, and then voila, the barrel arbor completely let go. And I believe that's exactly what happened. We repair lots of watches. Mostly they're just services. They come in, they just need to be cleaned and oiled and put back together and timed out to see if it runs a little better. And that's what we do. But sometimes you come across some of these really strange happenings inside of a watch, and if you see how compact they are and how they're put together, other than the occasional broken stem, we get a lot of those, a broken stem or a disconnected crown, of course crystals break, hands, etc., and so on and so forth. But this one was a little bit interesting. And when I told my wife a couple of days ago, about my findings, she said it kind of reminded her of an episode of Bones, that's a TV show that has like a forensic science, and they try to figure out how the person died. And she kind of laughed at the fact that it was almost kind of the same thing. She was like, "You're doing some kind of a forensic watch repair." Don't want to get into that business, but although the one interesting thing is the police always are curious about the time of death with a watch. You always know what the time of death is. If the hands are still on, you can always see what time the watch stopped at. So if battery dies, you know the time of death. Some of them, right, even down to the date. But I thought this was a really interesting one, and I do believe my friend hit the nail right on the head with that one. Adventures of watch repair, I guess. Anyways, just thought I'd share that with everybody. If you like my channel and you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any ideas for any future videos, please leave a comment in the in the comments below. I do read everything. Anyways, have a good night.